So, I am not a victim. I am not a man-hater. I don't need another woman to stand up for me and tell me what to do. These are all common factors or reasons found on a site for Women Against Feminism, used by women and girls to get their anti-feminism point across. Feminism to me does not mean being a victim. On the contrary, feminists stand up for themselves and what they believe. How would that be considered being a victim? Feminism to me also does not mean hatred over men or feeling better than them. Feminists want to be equal to men. They want to be equal in the sense, they want equality in the sense of the workforce, political issues, equality socially, which are the three main points that I will be addressing today. I am not here to force anyone to accept feminism or to live by it, but rather to view it in a different light. A light that does not include social media, but rather actual facts. In an article in the New York Times, Dr. Golden made a statement about the pay gap between women and men, saying that there is a belief, which is just not true, that women are just in bad occupations. And if we just put them in better occupations, we would solve the gender gap problem. That is not necessarily true. It would make a difference, but the difference would be minimal. The real problem is that there is inequality of pay between men and women that work in the same company, which means that they're in the same profession and the same level, just that men are obviously being paid more than women. According to the New York Times, women who had professions such as those of doctors, surgeons, or lawyers make 71% of what males in the same field make. I myself have witnessed inequality in the workplace. My current workplace, there were 2 male cashiers. Well, I'm not gonna say where I work. There were 2 male cashiers, and we got a new assistant manager. This new assistant manager made note, because our store is in a business area, so we don't get many customers. He went up to one of the male cashiers and said, sorry. He said, you look kind of bored. He said, I know a sorry. He said, I know males shouldn't be cashiers. He said, you look bored. So after that, he talked to him. He took him to his office, and he was promoted to a different position in the store. And he had just barely started working there. He didn't work much. He would just stand around. The guy would just stand around. I recognize when a person works hard. At my previous job, a guy had worked there for 6 months, but he worked so hard, and he told me that he was getting paid the same thing as the girls that had worked there over 2 years, and I understood it. He worked for what he did. I just don't feel that it was right I just don't feel that what the manager did was right. And that's one of the reasons why I feel so strong towards this topic. Sorry. Now moving on to political issues. I'm going to speak about abortion because, as Virginia Whitehall, a lifelong woman and human rights activist, said, no victory is permanent. Meaning that the abortion topic was won in a sense, but now some states are making it harder for women to seek that option. that means they're denying them the right. So, according to Amanda Marcotte, 10 states including Idaho, Iowa, Utah, Louisiana, Kansas, Virginia, Mississippi, Indiana, Ohio, and South Dakota, abortion is virtually illegal for some women. These states are cutting down on abortion services by shutting down clinics and attempting to charge women of attempted murder due to the fact that some of these women are taking abortion into their own hands because it is so limited to them. And I read some cases where women had to drive 7 or 8 hours to get to an abortion clinic, which is completely absurd. So the fact that us women don't have the opportunity to decide what to do with our bodies and decide for ourselves if we have the necessary means to bring a child into this world is quite saddening. If I don't tell anyone what to do with their body, why should anyone dictate what I should do with mine? Now on the social issue, there's a movement called Stop Telling Women to Smile, which was started in NYC by Tatiana Faslezi. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. This movement was set out to stop street harassment. According to streetharassment.org, in 2014, SSSH commissioned a 2,000-person national representative survey in the USA with firm GfK. The survey found that 65% of all women have had experienced street harassment. Among all women, 23 had been sexually touched, 20% had been followed, and 9% had to do something sexual. Among men, 25% had been street harassed. A higher percent of LGBT-identified men than heterosexual men reported this. And their most common form of harassment was homophobic or transphobic slurs. So, I honestly don't understand what the point of harassment is. Like, catcalling, all of that, it's really disturbing. Women constantly have to assess their surroundings. They feel a need. Like, I feel like I can't go out alone anywhere. And it's also been noted that to avoid confrontation with men, women alter their routes and cross the street and just turn a different way. Like, what are we supposed to do? Obviously, we can't stand up to a man. They're gonna overpower us. So just feminism and feminists aren't evil. We simply want the recognition that a hardworking woman deserves. We want to be respected while walking down the street alone or even with a group of friends. We want the right to our body and being able to decide what is best for it and ourselves. Sorry, it's such a sensitive topic for me. I shouldn't have done this.
raise goes to see the third section. We raise goes to see
All right, DeMonte, what did you think?
I thought it was a great speech. Not because I'm a feminist or anything. I thought the information was there. Besides her crying a little bit or getting off, a touchy subject or whatever. I thought the information was there. I think I got a little confused when she was kind of how do you say, citing where her sources came from, or when she was saying something about the articles, or what she had read with the professional, I forgot her name that she said, but she said a professional woman had said something, and I kind of got lost in the mix right there. I was a little confused, but that was it. Other than that, I thought it was a good speech. It was clear. The message got across. I even kind of felt it a little bit. I was tearing up over here. So I thought it was well. I liked it.
Okay. Well, it's obviously deeply felt. You have a strong emotional reaction to that. I think your comment at the end might be indicative of one of the issues that's going on here. Some of these things probably affect you more directly, and that's what motivates you to talk about them, but it also makes it complicated for you to talk about them in a more objective way and to build an argument about them and not give in to some of the feelings that you have about these issues. It seems to me like we've actually got three speeches here. There's really a speech about whether or not the concept of being a feminist is appropriate or inappropriate. We've got a speech about pay inequality. We've got a speech about, actually 4 topics. We've got a speech about abortion, and we've got a speech about harassment. I think you'd have a hard time finding anybody who thinks harassment is an appropriate behavior, or that thinks that that is, something that defines the difference between men and women. So as an example of feminism, I'm not exactly sure how it fits. You make a reference to, some movement, don't tell women to smile or something like that. And I had no idea what the heck that was all about, because there's not enough context that's provided. This might be a speech on its own where you're talking about harassment as an issue, and then you could tell us a little bit more about what this movement is, why it existed, that it's a reflection of the harassment that's going on or something along those lines, and then we could talk about the harassment issue. As it is, the whole idea of harassment undermines an argument that you made earlier that says, feminism is not about being a victim. Well, that's what you're saying in this last point, is that you're victimized by men in this situation. And I know that that's not the position that you're trying to take, which is why I don't think that that issue fits your original point. I think it should be its own speech. The abortion issue, I think, runs into the same problem. There are other issues that are related to this. I know that it's perceived as an issue of feminism because it has to do with the control that women have over their own body. The problem is that the dispute isn't that usually that people think that you shouldn't have control over your own body. It's that there's a conflict between, morality over whether or not you should have control over somebody else's body also. Like you said, if I can't tell somebody else to do with their body what they want, why should they be able to tell me? And the answer that would come back from the other side is because you are telling somebody else what to do with their body. You're telling them to die and get the hell out of your body. And that's not, that's where the controversy is on that issue. And that's a separate issue also. So I don't really think that that fits the point that you started off with. I think the argument about the wages probably fits a little bit more closely to that point, and that needs to be developed a little bit more. You needed to pick one of these issues and make that your focus. You've got a personal example that you're talking about here, which I like the idea of doing that, although that, of course, starts you on kind of the emotional issue that you're talking about. Maybe if you started with that as the example, use that as your attention device, got it out of the way, then it would be less like you're building up to that. and you could, you know, you still talk about it and be in control, and then just say, this is the kind of thing that feminism is designed to fight. This kind of discrimination or unfairness about the way women are treated in the workplace, that they don't have the kind of control over that they should have. You know, and then you can get in some of your data about wage differences or about examples of discrimination. The data that you had on the professionals that you mentioned on their, I don't know if it's salary or income, when you're talking about doctors and lawyers and nurses and all those kinds of things, that's a little bit different than being a salaried employee, because it's against the law to pay somebody a different salary if they're doing the same job. I mean, it's been against the law for 50 years to do that sort of thing. But what you're talking about is that people get tracked into one job or another, like the example that you talked about at work, where, you know, the one guy gets taken out of the clerk track and put into some other track where he's getting paid more and he's not doing as much. That's the kind of thing that I think, you know, ought to be the focus of your argument. And I think that that's the thing that fits your feminist argument to begin with. And then you know what the other issues are. I mean, you're kind of dependent on the script. You get a little bit involved emotionally with those kinds of issues. So it just felt to me like it's all over the place. All right, thank you.